dying is now legal. In some respects, it's a model for how the practice might work in Britain.
What?
Aid in dying is available to those who are terminally ill and expected to die within 6 months. Patients must self-administer the lethal medication, the same as what's proposed in the England Wales.
So Connor is live sleeping at the minute. But we also have his girlfriend, Dolly. She's sleeping as well. Yeah, they've had quite a full and packed day of running around. There you go.
Wayne has applied and been approved for an assisted death. He wants to die before his health declines so much he might not be able to swallow
Later in California.
medication.
Oh.
I watched 2 rounds go through the self death, natural death, and it was heinous, bad for me. And I thought, I'm not going to go through that one either.
I haven't got the other rights to be able to do subtitles.
I picked up a draft of information.
I know a bit.
Stuff.
Where have you decided you want to die?
Right here.
Clear.
Why is that?
Just because like I said,
Hospitals are miserable.
I hate hospitals. I'll never go to another one. I'll die in the street first if I go to the hospital.
He would probably insist I wheel him out to the street.
Yeah.
Wayne is 80, while Stella is 78, and they have 2 grown-up children. The family know Wayne's mind is made up. Stella, do you support Wayne in his decision?
Yes, I've known him over 50 years. He's a very independent man. He's always knows what he wants to do, and he's always fixed things. If something's not right, he can fix it, and he does. And that's how he's operating now.
Including the manner and timing of his death.
Right. He'll do it his way.
Okay, Wayne, so I'm going to do my exam now. I'm going to listen to your heart and your breathing.
Dr. Donnie Moore will be present when Wayne takes the lethal dose, although it's not compulsory for healthcare staff to attend. He showed me the drugs that are used, which arrived the previous day at the house and are now kept out of reach.
So these are 2 medications that we use to prevent any kind of nausea once somebody has drank the mixture.
And then obviously the key bottle. What about this?
Yeah, so this is the medication that somebody will take to ultimately end their life. It has 5 medications at very high doses that work in concert to make sure that somebody's in a very deep sleep and that their breathing and their heart is suppressed.
And how quickly do they fall asleep?
Once somebody has drank the medication, within 2 to 5 minutes, they get very tired and they fall asleep. Once they're asleep, it's much harder to predict exactly how long before somebody will die. It can be as short as 30 minutes. Sometimes it can take several hours.
Wow.
But I think it's important to know that the person's in a very, very deep, unaware state during that time. I still believe that with good palliative care and good hospice care, we can provide good deaths to patients. But for those who want more control or those whose suffering is irremediable, I believe this should be an option that's available to them.
Wayne asked if we'd come back a few weeks later once he picked
Weeks?
the date and to witness his death. He said people in Britain should see what assisted dying involves. It's an invitation we accepted, and we'll come back to Wayne later. assisted dying was introduced here in 2016, and some remain passionately opposed. Like Dr. Vincent Nguyen, he believes medical aid in dying is both morally wrong and dangerous. He's a palliative medicine specialist in Newport Beach, south of Los Angeles. His opposition is based on his medical experience and his Catholic faith.
I worry that physicians are no longer seen as a healer as we are, but rather participating in the death of a person by killing them, and we come from a healer to a killer. The way that society cares for its most vulnerable is the measure of its humanity. So instead of ending people's lives, let's put programs together to care for people, let them know that they're loved, they're wanted, and they're worthy.
Right there, see? He's right on the green. See that?
Michelle Carter is one of Dr. Nguyen's patients. She's 72 and has been married to Mike for 43 years. Both are being treated for cancer. Mike
dreaming at
for
the minute.
prostate and Michelle for ovarian. Michelle is terminally ill and has already been close to death twice. She knows that at one point her immunotherapy will stop working, but she has no intention of having an assisted death.
Suicide, dying, is not for me because, first of all, my faith informs my daily life. And I also believe in nature and the way there's a natural progress in the way of things. And so for myself, it has never been an option. It was something that I held my mother's hand when she passed. I held my father's hand when he passed. I understand what it means having those two times that
Dreaming.
was almost close to death. But no,
I see
I
that.
just want to go ahead and go the natural way of things. I think palliative
Sometimes you
care
bark
has
him
enough
or
options
whiff at him. He'll
and has
whiff
proven
back
to
in
me
his
that
sleep.
there's enough options there that you're not going to, I will not blame myself alone in a free fall. I have God and I have good medicine.
Michelle is a retired psychologist. She says she doesn't want to stop others choosing assisted dying, but knows it's not for her.
I believe there's freedom of choice. However, for me, I choose palliative care and I stand by it with my faith and some great doctors.
And also, you don't want medicine to go to the other extreme, but just keeping you alive.
Absolutely not. That is unfair to my family. It's unfair to all those that I love. And so when that time comes and I start to fade away, then I simply do just that.
There are others who feel under threat from assisted dying. Ingrid Tischer, who's 59, has muscular dystrophy and chronic respiratory failure, which means she's at high risk of infections and needs oxygen. She was part of a lawsuit which failed to get California's aid in dying laws overturned.
I think it's wrong and it's dangerous because it lowers the standard of medical care for people who are the most vulnerable and the least able to advocate for themselves. It makes me feel unsafe in the medical care system.
She feels that comes with potentially chilling consequences.
The message that it sends to people with disabilities in California is that you deserve suicide assistance rather than suicide prevention when you voice a desire to end your life. It's like people have just said, I give up. I'm not going to get what I need. I'm not going to get taken care of. And the best solution for me is to get out of this world as fast as possible. What does that say about who we are as a culture?
And the key argument against assisted dying is that it will lead to this coercion of the vulnerable.
I worry that there's a group of people who are vulnerable to this silent coercion, such as people who are disabled, the elderly, and people with mental illness such as untreated depression and anxiety. They will feel that the only option to relieve them of their suffering
That argument is rejected by doctors involved in assisted dying in California. Dr. Ryan Spielvogel trains physicians in end-of-life options, including assessing patients for aid in dying.
I'd like to say unequivocally that I have never seen a case of coercion in the hundreds of cases that I have been a part of. The patients are always driving the process. Sometimes they have supportive family members, and other times they have to drag their family members kicking and screaming to the doctor's office with them. If anything, I would say coercion goes the other way. I have unfortunately seen many cases where families have coerced their loved ones out of doing this because they have ways to make it difficult for their loved ones to do it.
In California, there was initially a mandatory 15-day cooling off period between patients making their first and second request. That's been reduced to 48 hours. Dr. Spielvogel says it was a sensible move, as many patients were dying during the waiting period.
We didn't see it actually enhancing patient care. We didn't see it catching people who were indecisive. We just saw people who were at the end of their lives, the very end, who were suffering the way they didn't want to suffer, end up dying the way they didn't want to during the waiting period.
The critics would say that reducing the cooling off period from 15 days to 48 hours, that's an example of the slippery slope.
I think that's a false argument. So when we introduce something like an assisted dying bill and we see what worked and what didn't, and then we take out the things that didn't, that's not slippery slope. That's due diligence.
Across California, around 1 in every 300 deaths is now medically aided. We'll be returning to San Diego later to see Wayne and his family on the day of his death. In Canada, aid in dying accounts for around 1 in 20 of all deaths, 15 times the rate in California. More than 15,000 adults a year in Canada have a medically assisted death. Introduced in 2016, it's open to those with an incurable medical condition which causes intolerable suffering. Initially, it was just for the terminally ill, but that requirement has been dropped.
This theater feels like the most special, unique place on earth for me, and it just feels fitting that I should take my final breath here.
This is where performance artist April Hubbard wants to die. She's on stage at her local theatre in Halifax, Nova Scotia. April is just 39 and is not terminally ill.
Why do you want to end your life?
I want to end my life because the balance of being able to live and enjoy life is no longer outweighing the pain that I'm in. And there's many days where I can't lift my head off the pillow and I can't eat anymore. And it's not a way I want to live for another 10 or 20 or 30 years if I can't have the quality and enjoyment in my life.
A serious spinal condition means April has been on strong opioid painkillers for more than 20 years, including these fentanyl patches.
So these 4 medications are my core meds that I have to have all the time to function right now.
April has been approved for medical assistance in dying, which Canadians call MAID.
They're never designed to be used for long term. So for me, it's done a lot of damage
damage to other parts of my body.
To qualify, adults must have a grievous, incurable condition which causes suffering which they consider intolerable. It took April 7 months to get the MAID paperwork approved by 2 doctors. Terminally ill adults can get it done in 24 hours.
Wow.
MAID is very much another medical choice for me. It's another type of medical care. But that ability to have autonomy over my own body has been the leading factor for me in choosing MAID.
Why did she not just put
So
a
how did
shed
Canada
load of
come to
patches
have
on?
some of the most liberal assisted dying laws in the world? It stems from a Supreme Court ruling a decade ago, which said the ban on medical aid in dying breached human rights. That's unlike the situation in Britain, where momentous social changes are left to Parliament rather than judges. In 2 years, Canada plans to extend assisted dying to adults with a mental illness and no physical ailment.
That's a
For
terrible idea.
critics, it will be a further slide down an already
No
slippery
way.
slope. Opponents of MAID argue it's being used as an alternative to social or medical support. Ramona Coelho, a family doctor in London, Ontario, says it's far quicker to get aid in dying than specialist care.
Wow.
Canada has fallen off a cliff. I wouldn't even call it a slippery slope. When people have suicidal ideations, we used to meet them with counseling and care. And actually for people with terminal illness and other diseases, we could mitigate that suffering and help them have a better life. And yet now we are seeing that as an appropriate request to die and ending their lives very quickly.
How do you feel about people being able to request MAID in the morning and be dead by the evening?
I find it very distressing because suffering is complex. The idea that you could actually understand someone's suffering in one day and actually try to mitigate it or remediate it, I feel is very improbable. And so likely we're ending the lives of people who might have enjoyed the rest of their lives with their family if they were given time. I don't see that as a mercy.
Sharon Scribner's family say she was repeatedly offered MAID when she was dying of lung cancer in hospital at the age of 81.
We had the nurse come in saying, you should fill this paper out, Sharon, before you go, so you can get on the list to see the MAID doctor. And my mom said, no thanks. They really did not want us to leave until my mom had signed these papers.
Wow.
You brought your mum home to die. What was her death like?
Beautiful. We had the palliative care team in the community came in, and I knew we could have a beautiful at-home death for mom, and I wanted that for her. And my sister got to experience the most beautiful death with her, so it was amazing. It gave all the family time to visit her. They came from far and wide, and she had the best last day of her life. So it was special.
What do you think MAID is doing to Canada?
It makes us think that we can't endure and we can't suffer a little bit, and that somehow now they've decided that dying needs to be assisted, where we've been dying for years and our bodies know how to die, you know? And it's like all of a sudden now we're telling people that this is a better option, this is an easy way out, and I think
Why?
it's just robbing our people of hope and of just a sense of accomplishing a beautiful life.
In Canada, nearly all medically assisted deaths are carried out by doctors, what's also known as voluntary euthanasia. Dr. Connia Troughton is president of the Canadian Association of MAID Assessors and Providers.
I do think MAID is working well. I think people are incredibly relieved to have an option. I think that we have good oversight, and I think that the clinicians who do this work
see it very seriously. We see it as a sacred obligation, as a sacred duty.
She's helped hundreds of people to die since the law was introduced.
Strangely, these days I use my stethoscope more to determine if someone has no heartbeat than if they have a heartbeat. So then I'll listen to you for a full minute.
Dr. Troughton agreed to demonstrate what's involved on me.
So I'd start an intravenous, okay, there, start it through there, okay, and then I'd secure it in place.
Injecting the drugs means it usually takes only a few minutes to die.
That's where the drugs would go in.
The drugs will be threaded through here, so each of this just has a little barrel that I can attach the syringe to.
This is not what's planned for England and Wales, where patients would need to self-administer, usually drink, the lethal dose. Dr. Troughton says it's more effective for doctors to carry it out.
For the patients at the last minute, they're always looking in my eyes and giving me the heads up and ready to go. They are directing the process. That gives me an honor and a duty and a privilege to be able to help them in those last moments with their family and those who are working around them, and to know that they made that decision thoughtfully, carefully, and thoroughly.
The Westminster Bill would restrict assisted dying to those expected to die within 6 months. In Canada, 19 out of 20 made deaths are among those whose death is reasonably foreseeable. But this has a huge range.
So it could be someone, for example, with rapidly onset Alzheimer's, who might have 5 or 7 years to die. It might be someone who has advanced, rapidly spreading cancer who has only 2 weeks to die. So both of those categories would fit because they would die sooner because of their disease process than their natural predicted death.
This is seriously effed up.
The number of Canadians choosing medically assisted death is increasing every year and is now one of the highest rates in the world.
So
Does that represent
they've got to
dignity
kill
or
themselves.
a threat?
Maybe we should bring your mate from Canada off there.
So friends and
See
thank
you
you
later,
so
bye.
much for clicking on this brand new
See what I
episode
think
of
about
Somebody
it.
After Dark.
Just
I'm
don't be
of
awake.
course your
Yeah.
deliciously disabled host.
Andrew Gerzer
This is
is a
insane.
podcaster and disability awareness consultant in Toronto. He says assisted dying is putting the lives of people with disabilities at risk.
It sends a message to them that you shouldn't fight for more, you should just die. And so it's really scary to me because if my disability declines, I still want to be here. If my care needs got higher, I
Happy to
still want
talk
to
to
be
you
here.
now, to be
I
honest.
fought to be here to live my life the way I live and to know that there's a law that saying you can easily end it. It's just really scary.
Do you think it's easier to get medical assistance in Dartmoor than it is to get decent disability support?
Yeah. It took me 10 to 15 years to get housing like this, and it would take me months to apply for housing.
I agree that suffering can be compounded by social circumstances. And it's tragic that, absolutely, it's sad that people would opt for an assisted death because we don't have adequate housing. I think that it doesn't happen very often. It's very rare that that happens. But the suffering, it also comes from their disease state. It comes from their neurological condition, it comes from their chronic pain, it comes from those conditions.
Supporters of men say that without it, many people would turn to suicide.
Without that safety net, I don't think I'd have the courage to keep taking the risk of living. And I think I would have made that choice to end it myself, and alone, and without the support of the people I love long ago. And my fear is that that's what will happen for many folks around the world who don't have the ability to have a peaceful and supportive death.
April has not set a date for her death, but says it'll be sometime in the coming months, surrounded by family and loved ones. It's nearly 4 weeks since we met Wayne and Stella at their home in San Diego. We've been invited back, as today's the day Wayne has chosen to die.
Hi Stella, how are you? Hey, we're here. Great to see you.
We wanted to be sure that our presence would not be a burden on the family.
Yeah, it is.
It was good to see the couple again and be introduced to their children, Ashley and Emily. Wayne looked more frail than the last time we had met, but was in good spirits.
So, have you decided absolutely that this is the day you want to take that medication?
I'm all in. I've never had any question about it. I was trying to decide weeks ago.
And what have you been doing the past few days with your children?
I'd be like,
Well,
so what happens after?
things have been done, and
Oh, nice.
after I don't know week because I can now, and that's been fun. Apple pie, I really love apple pie, but I'm supposed to not have carbohydrates, but now who cares when you put that? And pizza and what else? You had a glass of tequila. I'm not supposed to have either.
It's like having a prolonged wake ahead of time, which we feel is a gift to be able to have done this ahead of time instead of something sudden or traumatic ending.
It's been, like Mom said, a gift to be able to be here with him. We won't have to spend our last days with him like in some more of the hospital where he's just not where everybody thinks that this is. Well, it's been really hard. It's also been nice to know we're getting to share this time with him.
I think it's been a great opportunity to maybe do some of that grieving, or at least pre-processing that ahead of time, coming to terms with it. At the same time, getting to spend the last few weeks with my father.
It's now 10:30 a.m.
Right?
Wayne takes 3 anti-nausea tablets. These are to prevent vomiting of the lethal medication. Dr. Donnie Moore is on his way to the house. He's one of 2 doctors who've had to confirm that Wayne has less than 6 months to live, and so is eligible for an assisted death.
That's not right.
That's better than how they do it in Canada. Way better.
Hey, Doc,
No. Good morning. Good to see
We'll
you.
never get through here,
Yeah.
sorry.
well, this is a big day.
We hope not.
Yeah.
I hate when like people babysit for you.
I haven't waited. No, I haven't been in a couple days now, I think. Yeah. What are you doing?
Okay, I'll get everything ready and then you just let me know when you're ready, okay?
In the kitchen, Dr. Moore prepares the medication. He adds cherry and pineapple juice to the lethal powder, which should make it easier for Wayne to drink. It's a powerful combination of sedatives and painkillers, each up to 1,000 times the normal dose.
I bet that's horrible to drink.
It's like a milkshake, doesn't it?
Are you ready?
Thank you for all joining in to watch Connor's live while he's sleeping. We really appreciate it if you can hit that notification bell, like, comment and subscribe. I appreciate it, and so will Connor. We're going to have some new videos coming up soon of Dolly, his girlfriend. So let us know what you think. Ciao for now.